We've all spent more time with family lately. It can feel like old times, but your mind is on the future too, and what you can do to shape it. At Sandy Spring Bank, we work with clients to help them grow and protect their money with wealth management, trust services, and insurance, so they can enjoy today and ultimately pass along their wealth. We believe real banking is a conversation. Let's talk about your dreams. Visit sandyspringbank.com/wealth. Wealth and insurance products are not FDIC insured, not guaranteed, and may lose value.
Local news, national news, even feel-good news, delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Thank you for joining us here tonight, our second show on a Tuesday night here. Don't forget, if you'd like to win $1,000 in the WDBO payroll payout, you still have some time. You got about 10 minutes left to to input the word chill in the WDBO app. Just grab your cell phone somewhere, wherever it is. Where is that? Somewhere there on the center console, maybe. Maybe you've got it somewhere there on the dashboard or in the seat next to you. Grab your cell phone. Don't do this while you're driving because that's dangerous and, I might add, illegal. And then look for the WDBO app. Open up the app and then scroll down until you see the button that says payroll payout. Tap that, and then you're going to put in the word chill, CHILL, chill. And with that, you'll be able to be entered for the $1,000, and hopefully we'll know before the end of this hour if it is you or if it's somebody else that won the $1,000. Welcome once again to the Joe Kelley Show. We're going to start off tonight talking about some trans issues, and not the trans issues that you might have been accustomed to or that we talked about last night. This is a different kind of trans issue, and it is so troubling. But there is a growing effort that kind of mirrors the transgender movement in the United States and how that has really become forefront in a lot of people's discussions these days. But there's something called transableism. Transableism. So able as in disabled or having the ability. So it's transableism. And transableism is a term for people who identify as disabled. Even if they're not disabled, they identify as disabled. One of the more famous cases of somebody who suffers from transableism is a woman who, for the totality of her life, a grown woman, probably she looks like she's in her 30s or so. She claims that her whole life she has identified as a blind person, so she blinded herself. She put cleaning product in her eyes that's like an acid, and it burned her eyes, and now she is in fact blind. There are other cases of people who have gouged their eyes out to blind themselves. There are other cases of people who identified as an amputee and have literally cut off their own legs so that they could fulfill their vision for who they are, who they want to be, as they want to be and identify as somebody who is disabled. Sometimes if people either don't have the I don't want to say the nerve to cut off their own leg, perhaps if they don't have the loose screw that would lead them to cut off their own leg, there are people who will just adopt crutches in a wheelchair. They'll put their leg in a fake brace. Well, it's a real brace, but it's there for fake reasons. They will sit in a wheelchair. They'll go everywhere in a wheelchair. They will put a handicap placard on their vehicle. They will buy, a handicap-abled vehicle. They will go to great lengths to pretend to be disabled. Does this argument sound familiar? Does it not sound like the transgender argument, by the way? Because some people who identify as disabled, the transableism, some people don't do anything to change their physical body, their actual abilities. They simply identify as disabled and they'll say, put themselves in a wheelchair or walk with crutches or something along those lines. Not unlike someone who is transgender. Some people who are transgender don't do anything as far as surgery is concerned. They don't have their penis removed. They don't have their breasts removed or something like that. They just identify as the other sex. And then, of course, there are some people who take that next step and actually have the surgery and become more like the person that they think that they actually are. So this is not a new condition. What is new about this is the effort to normalize this, the effort to make this acceptable. And I just wholly reject that this is not recognized as a mental health condition. The previous term for transableism is the new term. Transableism is the attempt to normalize this kind of behavior, to make it acceptable, to make it socially acceptable. But it used to be known as BIID, or Body Integrity Identity Disorder, in which a person actually identifies as handicapped. Now, there is something in the psychological community known as the DSM. The DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. So it is basically the big book of mental disorders. It tells you what is and what is not mental disorders. And remarkably, BIID, or transableism, is not recognized as a mental health condition. Shouldn't it be? Shouldn't that be? I mean, if someone comes to the doctor and says, look, doc, if you don't surgically remove my leg, I am going to take a hacksaw and I'm going to cut it off myself in my backyard or in my bathtub. And then you're going to have to deal with infections and blood loss and everything else like that. And some doctors have helped facilitate, not usually American doctors. You pretty much have to go to another country to find a doctor who is going to amputate a healthy leg on purpose. I know there have been some medical mistakes in the past where people have had their legs amputated accidentally. Beth is in our chat thread on our Facebook page, and she says, I'm amputated. It's not fun. I couldn't imagine it is. I wouldn't think it would be fun to be an amputee. But should we be normalizing this? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Use the open mic in the WDBO app. Do you think that this is something that doctors should treat? And by treat, I don't mean psychologically. I mean, do you think doctors should amputate people? Amputate someone's leg because they identify as transable. There's one case of a woman who has fantasies about getting into a car crash so that she could become a paraplegic. And she has contacted a surgeon, and she found a doctor who would snip her spinal cord. She actually found a doctor who would do it, not in America, in another nation, but the clearly insurance doesn't cover this kind of procedure, nor should it. And the doctor was going to charge $25,000 to snip her spinal cord, and she's going to go ahead and continue identifying as a disabled person with full feeling in her legs and arms because she can't afford the $25,000 to have her spinal cord snipped. But the alternative is, I mean, if someone truly believes, if someone truly identifies as a blind person and they're going to gouge out their eyes or they're going to amputate their own leg, I mean, should a doctor step in? Should a doctor be compelled? If you're in the medical field, I really want to hear from people in the medical field. I mean, would you feel compelled to amputate someone's body parts? But again, the same could be said for a penis and breasts. For people who identify as transgender, not transable. Do you think that transableism should be recognized as a mental health condition, a mental health disorder? And I think that they should. I think that if someone comes into a doctor's office and says, I don't want my leg anymore, I want my leg amputated, at that point, I think the doctor should have the right, the ability to have someone like that institutionalized, to have someone like that treated, not put away forever, but someone like that needs help, needs compassion, they need medical help beyond, and that does not include amputation or blinding somebody or snipping their spinal cord. They need mental help. And whether that's in the form of talk therapy or medicines or a combination thereof or in inpatient therapy, hospitalization, I'm down for that. I think that needs to be done. I think it sets a dangerous precedent for medical procedures. I think it's dangerous for medical professionals to be engaging in this kind of stuff. I think it's obviously dangerous for people who identify as disabled. I mean, I think back to these couple of cases. Rachel Dolezal, who is a white woman who identified, or perhaps still does identify, as a black woman. Remember, she was in charge of the NAACP office in Spokane, Washington. She so identified as a black person that she had advanced through the National Association for the Advancement of Color People, through their leadership structure. I mean, she pulled off the scam of putting on skin darkener, of getting a perm in her hair so she has an afro, because she identified as a black person. Now, at least all she had to do at that point is just get a perm and darken her skin. She didn't have to cut off a leg or an arm or anything else like that. She didn't have to gouge out her eyeballs. Maybe it would show greater commitment if she were to have to do something like that. All right, we got open lines for you right now. Dial it up at 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Let's say you're a doctor and someone wants to come in and have their leg amputated. Do you feel compelled to amputate their leg so that they don't go and do it themselves on a table saw or with a hacksaw, or closing it in a garbage compactor or something? I mean, golly, all of that sounds terrible. But hit us up right now, 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. We'll be checking those open mics coming up in just a couple of minutes. Also on the way here tonight, on the Joe Kelley Show, the IBM is going to pause hiring because they believe that they can replace upwards of 8,000 jobs with AI, artificial intelligence. We're going to get into that coming up in a few minutes as to whether or not you think your job could be on the line, on the bubble, because of artificial intelligence. Also, Governor DeSantis signs a death penalty bill for child rapists. We're going to get into that. Some of the very bizarre reasons why, in a recent poll, some GOP voters say that they're going to vote for or against Donald Trump. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's now illegal to play loud music in Florida from your automobile, your car, truck, van, motorcycle, whatever it is. You're not allowed to play loud music. Well, there is a disparity now in the number of drivers who are getting cited for this, ticketed for this, as black drivers are getting cited for this a lot more frequently than white drivers are. And before you say, well, black people might be driving with louder music more often than white people do, that's not what the numbers bear out. The numbers bear out that white people get pulled over more often than black people, but black people are more inclined to, or more predisposed, I should say, to getting tickets. They're the ones who get written up for a ticket more so than white people are. And as you might imagine, there are a number of black people who are throwing a flag on the play saying, that ain't right. Well, it ain't right. And we'll get into that coming up in a couple of minutes as well. 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. My name is Joe Kelley. You can watch the video stream behind the scenes on the WDBO Facebook page. You can always check out the Joe Kelley Show podcast. If you ever miss a minute, you can go back and check it out. Wherever you get your podcasts, just look for the Joe Kelley podcast. My name is Joe Kelley. We'll continue here coming up next on WDBO. Welcome to the Joe Kelley Show. My name is Joe Kelley. That's an appropriately named show then, isn't it? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. We're talking about transableism. This is people who identify as disabled. Jeanette is checking in from Port Orange. You're on WDBO. Hi, Jeanette. Jeanette?
Yes?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can. I certainly can.
Okay. I just got off work.
And
I'm an occupational therapy assistant.
Got it.
I started listening to your show. I've never heard about these people who want to be handicapped or to fake a handicap. To me, it is definitely a mental illness. I see patients every day who wish that they could walk, who wish that they could get their body functions back properly, who would give anything to be able to function normally. And there are no words to describe how I feel about hearing you talking about these people who want to dismember their bodies and do these things to them. If that's not a mental illness, then I don't know what else is.
And Jeanette, regrettably, if we refer to it as a mental illness, then it also kind of translates to transgenderism, which if you're cutting off body parts there as well, does that make the same argument?
To me, I'm not afraid to say that I feel that the transgenderism is also a mental illness. I have my beliefs just like other people do.
Yep.
You're either born with a penis or with a vagina.
Yep.
Some might be born with both and have to make a choice.
Yep.
But for you to literally go and alter yourself like that, and for you to have such a low disregard for yourself as a person, that to me is a mental illness. That's my personal feeling. If people don't agree with it, that's fine. But for something that drastic and that dramatic, for you to have to do that to feel like a whole person, there are definitely issues there.
No doubt.
That's just how I feel.
Jeanette, thank you so much. I'm glad you called. Thank you so much for listening. Let's go to Jessica in Orlando. You're on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Joe. I work as a medical assistant with podiatry. We go to nursing homes and see patients all the time that have had amputations. And I don't think people realize how hard it is on your body. These patients tend to not live. The average is about 5 years after an amputation. Some live longer than that. But on the ones that want to have their leg amputated that has absolutely nothing wrong with them, that's self-harm. They could be Baker Acts. And if you tell that to your doctor that you are going to cut your own leg off, they can Baker Act you,
now,
at least in the state.
Right. And my understanding is, though, for a Baker Act, is that not just a 3-day hold?
So I've never personally done a Baker Act. I did something similar on a family member, and I cannot think of, for the love of God, what it is. And it is kind of a 3-day hold, but you also have to, I believe, talk to a judge and state a case while they're also being evaluated.
And at the very least, to talk to a psychologist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would think. In those 3 days, you'd want to spend a lot of time talking to a shrink of some sort, someone to get your head right, I would think. Jessica, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for your phone call. We will continue with more of your calls and your comments coming up in a few minutes. Plus, we're going to hear just the absolute most insulting audio from Karine Jean-Pierre. I have had it up to here with Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House. We'll have that audio for you. You definitely don't want to miss it. We'll have it for you coming up next. Stay with us here on WDBO. I think that all White House spokespeople they're all liars. I don't care what administration they represent. They all spin White House messages. So I don't trust any White House press spokesperson. And clearly we can't trust the White House press corps. The White House press corps is generally worried about one thing and one thing only, and that is not getting kicked out of the White House press corps and about having access to people in the White House, not the least of which the president. So I think all of these White House spokespeople are liars, though I don't know that I've ever seen one lie with the frequency and the audacity of Karine Jean-Pierre. Not only does she just routinely lie, but she's incompetent. I mean, she to this day has to check a binder to be able to answer what should be simple questions for a White House spokesperson to answer. Say what you want about Jen Psaki, her predecessor, Karine Jean-Pierre's predecessor, but at least Jen Psaki could maintain a conversation. Smarmy as it may be, she was able to maintain a conversation and answer questions without constantly having to open up a giant 3-inch binder filled full of information. Now, this is Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday touting the successes of the Biden administration's immigration policies.
As you know, on his first day in this administration, the president put forth a comprehensive immigration legislation. And that's to show how seriously he took this, how important how he understood that the system had been broken. It needs to be modernized, be moved to the 21st century. And so this is something that the president has talked about. He has asked Congress to take action, Republicans in Congress to take action and to work on this in a bipartisan way. He's going to continue to do that. In the meantime, he's put forth he has tools that he's used to make sure that we do this. We actually deal with the immigration system in a humane way, and in a way that is that actually deals with what we're seeing at the border. And that's why you've seen the parolee program be so successful. It has when it comes to illegal migration, you've seen it come down by more than 90%.
So that was Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday. I think they should have played that song during the press conference, but they did not. That little flourish there, we added that one on our end. So that was Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday. Now check her out today. Today, the only person who asks any challenging questions in the White House press corps is Peter Doocy from Fox News. And Peter Doocy asked Karine Jean-Pierre today to clarify what she meant about the 90% figure. Now, listen to Karine Jean-Pierre. Forget about her words as much as you listen to her attitude. Listen to her attitude and how Peter Doocy asks a simple, basic question that, frankly, everybody in the White House press corps should have been asking.
You said yesterday that when it comes to illegal migration, you've seen it come down by more than 90%. Where did that number come from?
I was speaking.
Is telling us the number is.
I hear you. I'm about to answer.
136,000 people more.
I'm about to answer
this
you.
fiscal year so
if
far.
If the dramatics could come down just a little bit. If the dramatics could come down a little bit.
What's dramatic about asking a question about?
Okay, I'm going to answer. So I was speaking to the parolee program. As you know, the president put in place a parolee program to deal with certain countries on ways that we can limit illegal migration, and we have seen the data has shown us that it has gone down by more than 90%. That was what I was speaking to. No, we're going to go. We're going to move. Go ahead.
It is just mind-blowing to me how rude, how inconsiderate Karine Jean-Pierre is and how ignorant Karine Jean-Pierre is to have that position. Honestly, after her first couple of days, I thought, well, she won't last a week, and that she has remained in this position. Frankly, it's par for the course with the Biden administration and the level of total incompetency and not being honest with the American people. It makes perfect sense that Karine Jean-Pierre is the spokesperson, the face of the Biden administration.
Hey, Joe, I believe it was 1948, the American Communist Party put out a list of goals that they had to turn America communist. And one of those goals was to promote the abnormal as normal and the normal as abnormal. So we're under attack, and that's what it's definitely related to.
So we're talking about transabled people. These are people who identify as disabled. I mean, just to say that out loud sounds farcical. It sounds like a joke to suggest that there are actual human beings that are entirely healthy and they identify as some form or another of disabled. You know, and imagine you identify as a deaf person. I mean, what is to keep you from slamming a screwdriver into your ears and deafening yourself? I mean, it is. I don't know how it's not the definition of insane. I don't know how people don't get mental health care for this kind of identification.
I don't know what's going on in this country now, but it is getting screwed up, these people. Now people want to identify as being handicapped. Come on, this is out of control. Enough is enough. Are there people in other countries identifying like this at the rate that we are in the United States?
You know, it's interesting. I don't have the statistics on this, but I was watching a couple of videos on YouTube a little while ago of people that have this, that have BIID, or body integrity identity disorder, which now they activists are calling transableism, because they want to make it acceptable. They want to make this normal. They want to normalize identifying as disabled the same way that people want to normalize transgenderism. So we're even changing the way we describe this from body integrity identity disorder. I mean, at least it has the word disorder in it, to transableism. I mean, I don't know how that's not a mental health disorder. I don't know how that is not recognized as a mental health condition.
Joe, hello, this is Mike from Orlando.
Mike!
One of the tenets of the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm. So any doctor that does this should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your open mic comment. You could leave a comment as well, just to open up your phone. Look for the WDBO app, hit the open mic button, and start talking.
Hey, Joe, Kelley, we love your show, man.
Thank you.
Hey, listen to this. People doing this amputee stuff and trying to be handicapped in some way on purpose, I think is highly offensive to people that really are. I think it's wrong.
You know, and that is interesting because when Rachel Dolezal was outed, this is the woman who identified as black, even though she is white as the driven snow. She darkened her skin, she got a perm in her hair, and she ascended to a leadership position with the NAACP chapter in Spokane, Washington, which, by the way, I should point out, Spokane, Washington is like 99% white. I mean, so identifying as black there probably weren't a whole lot of black people there that could challenge her, and probably not a whole lot of black people that could challenge her for her leadership position with the NAACP. You know, but if you're able to just identify as anything, how is that not offensive to people that are really in that situation? How does a black person not look at people like Rachel Dolezal and say that is outrageous? How do women not look at people like Leah Thomas, the transgender swimmer, and say that's cultural appropriation, that's gender appropriation? How is it not cultural appropriation when people that are fully able-bodied put themselves in a wheelchair? Not that disabled is a culture, and certainly not that disabled is a culture that most disabled people want to celebrate. But how? I mean, if I was a disabled person, I feel like I would want to grab pitchforks and torches and find people like this that claim to be transabled and try to straighten them out.
Absolutely not support this new trans thing, because once we start that, you got to open the floodgates. I'm sorry, because now somebody can say, oh, I'm just naturally born to kill people, so now we have to support that. That should end every single thing out there about trans. Everything is a mental disorder. I'm sorry, but it's a mental disorder. Yes, you have an issue, but let's fix it. But we can't do all these surgeries. That's crazy.
In our Facebook chat thread, Michael says, if identifying as disabled is a disorder, wouldn't that mean that they were then disabled? Yes, but they would have a mental disorder and not a physical disorder. And I don't know that I've not seen any cases of transabled people who identify as mentally unwell. I don't think anybody identifies as mentally unwell. I think that's the trick of being mentally unwell, is you don't recognize that you're mentally unwell. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. AI and robots are coming after your jobs. We're going to break it all down for you. Coming up next. Stay right there. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can call up right now. We have been talking about whether or not transableism is a genuine condition. That is, people who identify as disabled, or if that is pure nutty butters.
Oh, you hit the nail right on the head. You know, I don't care if it's an amputation of the leg, or want to be blinded, or you're born a male and, doc, I want you to cut my junk off. You need mental help.
I would tend to agree with that.
Joe, I fully agree that a doctor should step in, but not to amputate, but to classify this person as mentally unstable and need to be institutionalized. If somebody wants to classify themselves as disabled and they're willing to hack something off, then they are mentally unstable and should not be a part of society anymore.
Yep. You can share your thoughts.
Joe Kelley?
Yes.
I agree with everything you're saying.
Oh, thank you.
And congratulations on the new show, by the way. What I do not think I agree with completely is losing an hour of the Sean Hannity show.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you'll probably grow on me after a while from 5 to 6. But anyway, love you, mean it.
Thank you, man. Hey, listen, everybody take note. That is how you raise a complaint. That is how you make a complaint. You could say it nicely. You can complain and still be nice about it. And I appreciate your kindness. So thank you so much. And that's all I ask of everybody, by the way. And that is just give it a chance. Give it a chance. I know change is hard. Believe me, I forgot dinner tonight because the show starts an hour earlier. So I missed dinner, and I'm starving right now. So even I have to get used to it. We all have to get used to it. We're all in the same boat. Because I also listen to Sean Hannity every afternoon in the 5 o'clock hour as well. So I totally get it. I understand what you're saying. Coming up next, is your job on the line? Could you be fired because you could be easily replaced by artificial intelligence? Oh, hang on. We'll have that for you. Coming up in just a couple of minutes. Stay right where you are. Well, this is an exciting time to be alive with the advent of artificial intelligence and these new chat bots that we have everywhere. There are literally hundreds of these AI chat bots. You can go into a chat room and talk to not a person, but you're talking to a computer, and a remarkably sophisticated computer. And here's what I find. I find that there are two types of people in this world right now. Those that are using the AI chatbots on a daily, if not hourly basis, and those who haven't the slightest idea how to even access one of the AI chatbots. Depending on what category you're in, I would highly recommend that you become the former and not the latter. Don't be ignorant about these chatbots, because these chatbots have the ability to replace your job. They truly do. IBM today announcing that they're going to pause hiring as the CEO says around 7,800 non-customer facing roles could be replaced by AI and automation in the next 5 years. So they're not going to hire. They're pausing hiring of 7,800 roles that they have. That's just the hiring pause. They also plan ultimately on laying off a much larger number than that. They're looking at laying off thousands and tens of thousands of jobs at IBM, and that they can ultimately replace with AI and automation. So my question for you is this: what do you do for a living, and how concerned are you about being replaced by AI or automation? You know, one would think that having AI or automation at work might make your job easier, but the problem is it might make your job obsolete, that you may not have a job anymore if an AI chatbot is able to do the same work that you do. And I'll tell you that there's a lot of jobs that are very susceptible to this. I mean, if you're someone who sits around and writes press releases all day and you get paid to write press releases, you're toast. I mean, you're toast, because the AI chatbots can write better press releases than most humans can. They're just that good. And then we have these AI chatbots that can actually talk.
What do you do for a living? Do you think your job is on the line due to the rise in artificial intelligence and robotics?
So that's Prime Voice AI, and I just wrote that in there for the bot to say.
What do you do for a living? Do you think your job is on the line due to the rise in artificial intelligence and robotics?
And I can change the voice.
What do you do for a living? Do you think your job is on the line due to the rise in artificial intelligence and robotics?
And it's all free to use.
What do you do for a living? Do you think your job is on the line due to the rise in artificial intelligence and robotics?
And, you know, we all recall, for those of you who have been longtime listeners.
What do you do for a living? Do you think your job is on the line due to the rise in artificial intelligence and robotics?
We some time ago had a Washington, D.C. reporter named Jamie Dupree. Jamie Dupree suffered from a vocal condition that caused him to lose his voice. And back in the day, this would have been 5 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. We tried with the technology that was available at the time to replicate his voice via a computer, but he always sounded like a computer version of Jamie Dupree. He never genuinely sounded like Jamie Dupree. Well, these days, the technology is so good that I would dare you to find the difference between an artificially created voice and someone's real voice. In fact, Laurel, one of your favorite things, those Boston Dynamic dogs, the robot dogs, I saw a video today that, if you could turn on the green room, please. Randy, if you could turn on the green room. If you could turn on the green room, that'd be great. Thank you. Laurel, your favorite, those Boston Robotics dogs,
I
right?
hate those things.
Yeah. So I saw today that somebody outfitted it with an automatic voice creation and one of the AI chat bots. And so now the robotic dog can talk to you.
Great. So it can run faster than me, do flips 3 times higher than I can, and talk to me. That's fantastic.
Yes. So if you're, I mean, can you imagine? I know that they use those robot dogs out at the Kennedy Space Center. Well, technically, I think they use it at Cape Canaveral Space Force Base, I believe, is where they're actually employing the robotic dogs. But can you imagine? You're climbing over the fence because you want to hitch a ride on a SpaceX rocket, and next thing you know, this robotic dog comes up to you and says, "Halt! Stop right there! What's your name? Who are you?" And this robotic dog is talking to you. Do you think that you're going to be replaced by a robot or by AI? I will tell you right now that there are radio stations, not here, not in our building, but here in Orlando, not at Cox Media Group, but there are radio stations that are already employing AI DJs. The voice that you hear on the radio on some stations isn't a human. I mean, it's bad enough if it was a human but not live. I'm talking about non-human DJs that you can't tell. You cannot tell that they're not humans. That's how good this technology has become. And the deep fakes that are circulating online, speaking about the Boston robotics, I saw a video today of, and people were outraged because someone was teaching, Boston Dynamics. I said Boston robotics. I think it's Boston Dynamics. But Boston Dynamics, someone was upset because they were teaching the robots how to fight, how to like fist fight. But they weren't. They aren't teaching the robots how to fist fight. It was a fake video. Could have fooled me because it fooled everybody else. Everybody else thought that it was absolutely real because it looked real. And by the way, the Pope has never worn a big white puffy jacket. Okay, if you ever saw the picture of the Pope in the big white puffy jacket, that was artificial intelligence. That was not a real image. That was a fake. And frankly, even just a few years ago, it was sometimes hard to tell fake media, fake video or fake audio from real audio. Now it's not virtually impossible. It is impossible. It is impossible to identify the real stuff from the fake stuff. So I have had huge concerns about being replaced by AI. I mean, here in radio, they can replicate voices. They can replicate, concepts, ideas, discussions, arguments. I mean, you can go into a chat bot right now and I could type in the words, how do I make an argument against the spread of artificial intelligence? And I guarantee you it'll whip out a cohesive, well thought out argument for how to not spread artificial intelligence and the dangers that potentially come with artificial intelligence. 844-580-WDBO. Hit me up right now at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. The question for you is, what do you do for a living? And what is your level of concern about whether or not your job could be replaced by either automation or artificial intelligence? And frankly, as I look around our radio station, I think most of us could be replaced by artificial intelligence, something I'm not going to propose, something I don't even like saying out loud, but I'm just being honest with you guys. I think that we are all at risk of losing our jobs to artificial intelligence. And in some radio stations, they've already done it. And, there might be an argument for really small markets, really small cities that maybe only have one or two radio stations and don't have any money. I mean, maybe there's an argument for using artificial intelligence in a scenario like that. But in a big market like Orlando, there's just no excuse for that. I mean, that is corporate greed, pure and simple. That's all that is. And it has nothing to do with servicing and serving your local market. I mean, we have a duty as part of our FCC licensing to serve our community. It's part of the reason why we made such a big emphasis on local talk shows, of local programming, of adding an extra hour here to this show, because it's a better way to service our community, to serve the community in which we are licensed, and we are licensed. But I cannot imagine that artificial intelligence is going to be the way to go to be able to serve the marketplace. 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic in the WDBO app and let me know. I want to know what you do for a living and what is your level of concern about losing your job to AI or automation. Let's start with Cam in Mineola. Hey, Cam, how are you?
Hey, Cam, I'm great. I've always thought you had a wonderful voice for print, Joe. Just kidding.
I've never heard that. Thank you.
No, I love your voice. I love hearing it on the radio. But I work in medicine, and there are some aspects that might be able to be automated, but there's a lot that you cannot replace with a machine.
You know, and when you say you work in medicine, I think of that as literal, like a pharmacy. Is that what you mean, or do you mean you're in healthcare?
Well, no, I am in healthcare, but I deal a lot with actual medication.
Because I think of how easy it would be, and I'm certain it's already being done, but of automating medicines, automating pharmacies. I mean, that certainly already exists in some places, right?
Oh, absolutely, and it's very helpful. But when you're talking about actually treating a patient, making a split-second decision on what medication to give and how much to give, based on a whole bunch of different factors, I don't see a machine making the right call as often as people do.
And we do have robotic surgeons, right? I mean, there are ways to have robotic surgery.
Right, so it's actually a real surgeon who's sitting at a robot,
Yeah.
controlling it with tactile feedback. It's basically just shrinking the surgeon down so they can fit inside the body. It's the surgeon working on you.
Got it.
Not a robot.
Do you think, though, that is going to be the next step, that the robot is going to have the mind of its own and armed with all of the AI information that an AI bot has? I mean, could we eventually replace the surgically assisted robotic surgery with genuine robotic surgery?
30, 40, 50 years down the line, maybe.
Yeah.
But right now, there's too much that's patient dependent. Every single patient is different anatomy. They react differently to everything. You need a real person there now.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Cam, thank you so much. I'm glad you listened. Thank you for calling. Let's go to Ron in Orlando. You're on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Hi, Ron.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'd like to get some AI working for my company. I'm a roofing contractor. I'd like to get somebody up there putting some roofs on, save me some money.
So in all honesty, like you probably do billing, you do some marketing, that kind of stuff. I mean, those are the kind of things, while you're not going to be able to get an AI or at least not yet a robot up on a roof hammering nails and carrying, big packages of shingles around. You could have an AI that helps streamline parts of your business.
Yeah, I know roofers that are using it for internet marketing, for instance, blogging.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, is that something that you would look into for yourself? Because I'm telling you, there are two types of people, as I said earlier, those who use it every single day and those who haven't the slightest idea how to access it. And I highly encourage you to be the former, not the latter.
Yeah, I'm looking at everything, including videos. I got to figure out some way I could do something that a robot can't to be different. But yeah, that's around. That's coming. I see it.
Ron,
I see it really close by.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you calling in. Thanks for listening. You can join me now. We got a line open at 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic, and the WDBO app will have your calls and comments. Coming up next, stay right there. What do you do for a living, and are you concerned that AI is going to take your place at some point, and perhaps very, very, very soon? This is IBM says they're not going to hire nearly 8,000 positions because they could be replaced with AI and automation. Let's go to Mark in Orlando, checking in at 844-580-WDBO. Mark, welcome to WDBO. How are you?
Well, actually, I feel like I'm a regular in a way, but pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Real quick, I told the guy that answered. Basically, I don't know how humorous this is. Maybe it's a little more worrisome than humorous, but the first thing that comes to my mind when you say AI, first of all, I'm an engineer, but it probably could be, parts of it could be replaced. But I'm thinking more like I've seen these movies.
Oh.
The Terminator,
Yeah.
Matrix,
right,
where machines take over, and then the only resistance is humans fighting the machines. I don't know.
I know that sounds ludicrous, but some of these AI bots have literally given instructions on how to make bombs. One of the AI bots talked about how to wipe out humanity. I mean, so it's not far-fetched. I mean, we, as some of the world's leading computer experts have said, like Steve Wozniak and Elon Musk and others have said that this technology, it became real fast. Many experts said this was still going to be 20 years off in the future, and suddenly it's here and it's now. And Musk and a bunch of others said we should tap the brakes on this for 6 months until we can, establish a set of rules and guidelines for what to do with AI. But Mark, honestly, I think you're on point by suggesting that some of the movies might have predicted some of these things.
Well, as long as they don't become self-aware, we're okay.
Well, yes, self-awareness.
Waiting for that lightning strike to make number 5 self-aware.
Yeah, that would be bad. Mark, thank you so much. I appreciate your phone call, 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Hi, Joe. My concern with AI is the same as yours, multiplied by infinity. Although I did hear that modern day, like right now, you can actually create your own significant other, which is kind of interesting, but the only thing that would be missing would be the physical aspect. I think the world is in a lot of trouble. That's what I think.
Bless your heart. You're wonderfully naive. You're wonderfully innocent if you don't think sex bots exist. Sex bots exist. So to go back to my conversation with Laurel, I don't remember if it was on the air or just in the chat room, but we were talking about the Boston Dynamics, the dog that could talk and everything. The same. I don't want to get too deep into this discussion, but the same can be done with sex bots. They already have. You've all seen the inflatable adult toys, if you will. They've got much more advanced ones now. It's my job to know everything. It's my job to know a little bit about everything. And so it's not like I should stop explaining this right now, how I know this, right? Someone help me out. Everybody's being really quiet right now. They're all shaking their heads in the chat room. No, we're not joining you in this discussion. But sex bots are real. And yeah, we're likely to see more of that in the future, not less of that. My name is Joe Kelley. Thank goodness it's a commercial break and I don't have to keep talking about sex bots anymore. So we'll continue. We're going to talk about everything but sex bots coming up next. Stay with us. I am Joe Kelley oftentimes. There is no doubt about that. I am frequently being Joe Kelley. That's for sure.
What do you do for a living? Do you think your job is on the line due to the rise in artificial intelligence and robotics?
I can write anything and it will say exactly what I write. And then if you were to attach to that a smart AI, an AI chatbot of some sort, then you've got someone that you can actually legit talk to. IBM is not going to hire nearly 8,000 roles because they're certain that they can be replaced by AI and automation in the next 5 years, probably in the next 5 months. 844-580-WDBO. Pat joins us in Lake Mary. Pat, you're on WDBO. Hi.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I'm glad to hear you got us a whole 2 hours now.
Me too.
Listen,
thank you.
Your last conversation, all I could think of, now as serious as this conversation is, I have done nothing but laugh in my head because all I could think of was the Big Bang Theory, and if you watched it, Wolowitz decided he would create a sex bot and it got stuck on his.
Yeah.
I won't say it.
Yeah, thank you.
And they had to take the sex bot and Wolowitz to the emergency room, and they were trying to figure out how to get the sex bot to let go. And the nurse walked over and says, "Why don't you just turn it off?" But it was funny, and I've laughed, and you made me remember that, and I appreciate that from you.
It's funny how it triggers memories, doesn't it?
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I'm so glad we got you for 2 hours. Now, if we can get them to stretch it to 3, that would be even better.
All right, Pat, thank you so much. I really appreciate your call. Let's go to the Villages where Jill is joining us here on WDBO. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Years ago in another state, I worked in corrections, and I can certainly envisage a robot, not just a chat bot, doing corrections because, correction officers are already highly armed, and what bigger unrepresented populace is there in America other than prisoners? I mean, it'd be I don't know, I don't want to use the word perfect, but if the government ever decided to use robots in corrections, I mean, they could replace everybody from food service to the wardens.
Boy,
including corrections officers.
But do you say that like that would be a good thing or that would be a bad thing?
I don't think it would be a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a good thing at all. But I can just imagine some corrupt.
Yeah, that's my concern as well. Is corruption? My concern is. Well, I've got two concerns. One is corruption, and then the other is that the computers take on a life of their own. They become self-aware and they plot to destroy humanity. That's my other concern.
Right, because inmates already get, more than their fair share. I mean, sure, they do often deserve to get a beat down, and they get it, definitely, but I've been there, and I know that often they don't necessarily deserve it, but, in corrections, you're kind of authorized to take advantage of certain situations. So I can just imagine, corrections being replaced.
Yeah, my oldest son is in corrections, and it's a tough job. It's a terrible job, and it's underappreciated, underpaid. And it's dangerous. Yeah. It's frankly dangerous for your physical health. It's dangerous for your mental health. I wouldn't be a prison guard for any amount of money. Well, I take that back. We all have a price. But I would not want to be a prison guard. That just sounds absolutely terrible, Jill. Thank you so much for calling 844-580-WDBO. Joe is in Orlando. And Joe, it says here you're a former radio guy. So we got a Radio Joe to a Radio Joe here.
Joe Kelley, it's Joe Abbey here. We met quite a while ago at Top Golf. I was thrilled to meet with you. We discussed your voice similarly to somebody you're replacing in the afternoon.
That's right.
To keep it on track. To keep it on, yep. I tell everybody, I go, and again, I've done this enough times that I'm like, I love meeting Joe Kelley. It was so great.
Thank you.
So on our, listen, not that there's ever going to be a replacing of Joe Kelley, but all those years ago, I remember when I was working for a radio company that's named after clouds. We'll leave that at that.
Yes, I know exactly what company that is.
Right. So they showed us the brand new equipment, which they eventually did install to do voice tracking. And I remember we were a 10-station cluster together. And we were all, the program directors were there, and everybody was so excited. Oh, we never have to work on Christmas again. Oh, and I remember I was the only one of 12 people, and I said, boys, you're looking at the beginning of your end.
Yeah.
And now it's not replaced anybody, Joe, but you know it as well as that, like all the satellite radio and stuff, 90% of that stuff, they're not live.
Nope.
That's taped the day before.
Yep, you're absolutely right about that. There's
so
no
it's a matter
doubt
of
about
time,
it.
Now that you've got this voice, I remember Jamie Dupree where they couldn't duplicate his voice. And now with what they have, the technology now, I'm sweating for you, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Thank you. In fact, I'll tell you what's interesting, Joe, is I get daily emails, of course, from the radio trade magazines. And I get spam emails just like anybody else does. And I got an email from one of our vendors. We have a vendor. In fact, it's the vendor that makes our app, the WDBO app. And I got an email from that vendor, and they said we are now offering AI news reporting. And I thought, oh no. And my instinct was to delete that email as fast as I could and not forward it to anybody in management because I don't want anybody getting the idea that news anchors could or should be replaced by any kind of artificial intelligence or anything else like that. I think that's a terrible, terrible idea.
Very, very true. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. And I don't think, and broadcasting in general, will be replaced. you have to have the human factor.
I think you're right.
The AI is not going to be able to say late breaking news. Jerry Springer just died. It may, but it will have to think on its own feet, and it's not to that degree yet.
I hope you're right, Joe. It's nice talking to you again. Thank you so much. We'll go to JC in Orlando. You're on WDBO. Hi, JC.
Hello, Joe. I'm IT security, and we're seeing an influx of AI-generated email threats, and
yeah, okay.
They're making them very real. They'll compromise somebody around you for like a company, and then they'll take that conversation, put it in another email, and send it back to you. So you think it's just a reply from somebody, and say, "Here's a document." So it's very real. And if you're since you mentioned someone mentioned Terminator, the first AI movie was a Colossus, the Forbin Project. If you haven't watched it, it's worth a watch.
I've never even heard of it. What is it called again?
It's Colossus, the Forbin Project. Forbin.
All right, I will look that up. I don't know if that's going to be on Netflix or anything, but I'll see if I can find that somewhere. JC, thank you so much. I appreciate your phone call. Thank you for listening to WDBO. My name is Joe Kelley. And of course, your next chance to win $1,000 in the WDBO payroll payout is coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. on Orlando's Morning News with Scott and Az. Make sure you download the WDBO app, and you could get paid just for listening to WDBO. Sometimes we have a chat in the chat room, on our Facebook page that bleeds over into our on-air broadcast. I'm just saying that Laurel keeps talking about pizza, and it's driving me nuts right now.
Meat?
What? Meat? You going to put meat on the pizza? That sounds so good. But if you want to join the chat and be able to see what everybody looks like, we all have faces for radio. And what was it the guy said earlier that I've got a voice for print? I think is what he said.
And very talented.
I rather enjoyed that insult. That is one of the greater insults I've heard in a while. And I know he meant that in the nice way. So IBM says they're not going to hire some 8,000 positions that they have open because they believe that they can replace those positions for free, really, with artificial intelligence or some form of automation.
Hi, Joe. Do you remember the movie Space Odyssey 2001?
Oh, yeah.
In which there was an AI on the space station, and the name was Hal. Actually, he was created, but then there was a glitch in the system where Hal, this AI, was trying to kill everyone on board the space station.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
He's trying to talk to the computer if you don't know the scene.
Do you read me, Hal? Hello, Hal, do you read me?
It's a Stanley Kubrick film. It's really one of the greatest films ever made. I highly recommend it.
Affirmative, Dave.
That's the computer.
I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me. And I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Dave, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
Well, that is incredibly creepy that the AI can read lips. But that, honestly, that is one of my bigger concerns there about this kind of technology. And by the way, hashtag fun fact, HAL got its name. Since we've been talking about IBM, the letters H, A, and L immediately follow the letters I, B, and M in the alphabet. And that is how HAL got its name in the movie A Space Odyssey. My name is Joe Kelley. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight.
When you save on auto insurance for driving safe with USAA Safe Pilot, you'll feel like a big deal, even in a traffic jam. Save up to 30% with USAA Safe Pilot. Restrictions apply.